Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel, and today we dive into one of the most dramatic and consequential events in the modern Middle East, the Israeli military operation in Gaza that was initially designed to project dominance, restore deterrence, and neutralize militant capabilities, but instead turned into a grueling and costly campaign that many observers now describe as having backfired severely, resulting in the reported loss of thousands of troops, widespread equipment damage, mounting political backlash, and a shifting perception of Israel's strategic edge in the region. And while this event is still unfolding in some respects, it offers a powerful case study in how even the most technologically advanced militaries can miscalculate when faced with asymmetric threats, complex urban terrain, and underestimated adversaries. So in this comprehensive analysis, we are going to break it down like a full review, as if the operation itself were a product on the global stage, examining its exterior presentation, internal structure, actual performance, safety features or lack thereof, the unique selling points that were advertised, the real price that was paid, and the ultimate conclusion we can draw from this turning point in the conflict between Israel and Gaza-based militant groups. And by doing so, we hope to bring clarity to an event that has not only reshaped military strategy, but also rattled alliances, altered diplomatic dynamics, and sparked deep debate inside Israel itself. From the outside, the exterior of this operation appeared powerful, sleek, and intimidating, almost like the rollout of a next-generation military platform that had been engineered for maximum effect. And the government in Tel Aviv made sure to project this image both to its domestic audience and to the international community, showcasing columns of Merkava tanks advancing toward the border, squadrons of F-35s and F-16 screaming across the sky, fleets of drones providing real-time intelligence and surveillance, and elite infantry units mobilized with speed and precision, and the early messaging suggested that this was not a reckless assault, but a calculated and technologically superior campaign aimed at dismantling Hamas' command structure, destroying rocket production sites, eliminating tunnel networks, and re-establishing Israel's deterrent posture in the face of continued rocket fire and cross-border attacks. And in this sense, the exterior looked formidable, polished, and full of confidence. The kind of image that would make any adversary think twice about resisting, and the visual impact of Israel's military might was amplified through press releases, videos, and staged briefings that emphasized the capability, readiness, and strategic clarity of the operation. However, once the operation moved from the border into the heart of Gaza, the interior reality began to look very different. And like any system or product that looks good on the outside but is poorly constructed on the inside, the weaknesses began to show quickly because the Israeli defense forces found themselves navigating one of the most challenging environments on Earth, a densely populated urban zone filled with narrow alleyways, reinforced tunnels, hidden sniper nests, explosive traps, and an enemy that had spent years preparing for exactly this kind of incursion, and the result was a battlefield that did not conform to Israel's strengths in open terrain, maneuver warfare, and aerial dominance, but instead forced the IDF into slow, grinding house-to-house combat where technology was often neutralized by low-tech but highly effective resistance, and this interior design flaw was not just a tactical inconvenience, but a strategic miscalculation, because the very terrain that the operation sought to dominate turned out to be a force multiplier for the defenders, and the result was high casualties, stalled progress, and growing frustration among commanders who realized that their battle plans were being rewritten in real time by the harsh conditions on the ground. In terms of performance, the operation began with high expectations, but soon revealed serious limitations, because while the IDF did succeed in striking a number of high-value targets and disrupting some militant networks, it failed to achieve the kind of decisive victory that had been promised. and instead found itself locked in prolonged engagements that drained manpower, consumed vast amounts of ammunition and fuel, and placed enormous strain on logistics, morale, and coordination. And the loss of thousands of troops not only shocked the Israeli public, but also shook the confidence of military planners who had believed that their training, doctrine, and technology would guarantee superiority. And when reports emerged of entire units being ambushed, armored vehicles destroyed by improvised explosive devices, and soldiers captured or killed in tunnel-based counterattacks, the narrative of success began to crumble, and what was supposed to be a fast, efficient, and overwhelming show of force became a case study in how even the most advanced militaries can falter when they underestimate their opponent, overestimate their own capabilities, or misread the complexity of battlefield. And from a pure performance standpoint, the operation underdelivered, revealing that the systems and strategies in place were not sufficient to overcome the layered defenses, high motivation, and tactical ingenuity of the enemy. Safety features in this context refer to the protections built into the operation to minimize risks, protect soldiers, avoid civilian casualties, and maintain international legitimacy. But here again, the operation struggled, because although Israel deployed advanced reconnaissance drones, armored personnel carriers with reinforced plating, and tried to use precision, guided munitions to avoid collateral damage, the chaotic nature of urban warfare in Gaza meant that many of these safety features failed to function as intended, and the result was devastating both for the soldiers on the ground and for the civilian population trapped in the crossfire, as reports emerged of units being caught in booby-trapped buildings, of armored vehicles being immobilized by cleverly hidden explosives, and of civilians being killed in strikes that triggered global condemnation and diplomatic fallout. And as these safety failures mounted, Israel found itself increasingly isolated, with allies calling for restraint, humanitarian agencies warning of catastrophe, and domestic critics accusing the government of endangering both its own soldiers and innocent lives, and the safety systems, which were supposed to shield the operation from these outcomes, proved either inadequate, poorly applied, or simply overwhelmed by the realities of combat in such a hostile environment. When we turn to the unique selling points, the operation was built on the idea that Israel's unmatched combination of intelligence, air power, cyber capabilities, and elite ground forces would make this campaign unlike any other, a kind of signature offensive that would demonstrate the IDF's ability to project power deep into hostile territory, dismantle militant infrastructure, and emerge with minimal losses. And this was marketed domestically as a reaffirmation of Israel's strategic edge, and internationally as proof that modern military technology, when applied with precision, could neutralize asymmetric threats. But what made this operation unique in theory also became the source of its greatest vulnerability, because the over-reliance on technological superiority led to a kind of strategic complacency, a belief that speed, surveillance, and firepower could substitute for local knowledge, terrain familiarity, and long-term resilience. And once Hamas and other militant factions adapted to these tactics, using tunnels, human shields, deception, and mobile rocket teams, they were able to neutralize or at least blunt many of Israel's advantages, and the unique features that were supposed to guarantee victory ended up highlighting the limitations of a purely high-tech approach to a low-tech, high-intensity conflict. And so the very thing that was supposed to make the operation stand out became a cautionary example of how innovation without adaptation can lead to failure. Now we must talk about the price, because the cost of this operation has been staggering in every sense, starting with the human cost, as reports indicate that thousands of Israeli soldiers were killed, wounded, or went missing during the campaign. And this represents not just a tactical setback, but a deep emotional and political wound for Israeli society, where military service is a shared national experience, and the loss of life resonates across families, communities, and the national psyche. And beyond the human toll, there is the financial cost, with billions of dollars spent on mobilization, equipment replacement, ammunition resupply, emergency medical care, and reconstruction of damaged infrastructure. And these expenditures come at a time when Israel is already facing economic pressures from inflation, political instability, and global market volatility. And then there is the diplomatic cost, because the international backlash against the operation, fueled by images of civilian suffering, accusations of disproportionate force, and growing calls for sanctions or embargoes, has damaged Israel's relationships with key partners, strained its alliances, and emboldened its adversaries, and the reputational damage may take years to repair, if it can be repaired at all. And so when we calculate the price of this operation, it is not just about money or manpower, but about credibility, legitimacy, and strategic flexibility, all of which have been severely diminished by the outcome of this campaign. Finally, we arrive at the conclusion, and in the spirit of a full product review, this is where we have to make a judgment about whether the operation succeeded, failed, or delivered something in between, and based on the evidence available, the overwhelming consensus is that this operation did not achieve its stated objectives, did not restore deterrence, and did not enhance Israel's security in the way it was intended to. And instead, it has left the country more vulnerable, more divided, and more questioned than before. And while there were moments of tactical success and instances where the IDF demonstrated its skill, discipline, and bravery, these were overshadowed by the strategic missteps, the intelligence gaps, the underestimation of the enemy, and the overconfidence in technological superiority. And in this sense, the operation serves as a sobering reminder that modern warfare is not just about having the best tools, but about understanding the context, respecting the complexity of the battlefield, and being prepared to adapt in real time to an enemy that is determined, resourceful, and willing to absorb heavy losses to achieve its goals. And as Israel reflects on this campaign, there will be calls for accountability, for reform, and for a new strategic doctrine that balances power with prudence, and that seeks to learn from failure rather than deny it. And for the region as a whole, this event will be studied for years to come, not only by military planners and political analysts, but by civilians who understand that the consequences of such operations extend far beyond the battlefield, shaping the future of peace, conflict, and coexistence in one of the most volatile parts of the world. And so the final takeaway is that while the operation began with great promise and overwhelming force, it ended in disillusionment, loss, and a profound rethinking of what it means to fight and win in the 21st century. And in the end, the product that was sold as a quick solution became a long-term problem, a case study in how even the most powerful actors can find themselves outmaneuvered when they mistake strength for strategy and speed for success.